race is held in the Green Mountains in Vermont on a 10-mile loop up and down this mountain, and you're running through technical trails, mountains, rocks, mud. The weather's horrible. It's Vermont.
Right.
So it's just constantly raining, tons of mud, lots of roots and rocks. Uh, I didn't know what I was doing. I had run a few 100 milers prior to that, and I was relatively new to ultra running. So I said, "What the hell? I'll just go for it." And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't have any crew or any pacers for the first week, and I thought, hey, maybe I could maybe I could get this done without sleeping and get it done in one shot. And I completely went out of my mind. I went psychotic, and I made it. I made it to 460 miles before I had some crew and pacers show up when they found out I was losing my mind. Um, and they tried to get me to the finish.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Running Strong Mind Body Connection podcast. So excited to have you here. This is where hustle meets healing and strength comes from the inside out. I'm your host, Karen Bonnet Natraj, your mental fitness and peak performance coach. I'm a speaker, I'm a runner, and I believe that burnout is not our birthright. So this podcast was born from the one truth that you don't need to push harder. You need to align smarter. Because when your mind and body stop fighting and start flowing, magic happens, right? So each week we dive deep into the juicy stuff, real stories, unfiltered wisdom, and practical tools to shift you from that stress to strength, self-doubt to self-trust, and chaos to calm. So you'll hear from runners, coaches, healers, nutritionists, everyday people who've stared down struggle and came out on the other side, stronger, wiser, and more lit up than ever. So whether you're chasing a finish line, recovering from burnout, or just craving more connection and clarity, so this is your place to grow, heal, laugh, and lead with heart. And I hope you enjoy it, because if you do, please listen. Go to my YouTube channel at Running Strong Mind Body Connection. Put your comments in. Look at the show notes, because there's so much value that I'm putting into the show notes that can help change your life from all of our amazing speakers, all of my amazing guests. So check it out for more inspiration and tools right out the gate. So if you know someone who you think is a good fit for this podcast, or hey, do you want to be on this podcast? Of course you do. Just message me, send me an email. But you can also go to my website, and I have a brand new website. Let's start this again. I have a brand new website, thementalfitnessedge.com. And you can just click on that link right there on that front page and get on a discovery call with me. And let's shift our life to one that comes from a place of peace, purpose, and freedom. So you guys, today's guest is an amazing runner. We're going to dive into his story about Route 66. So we'll stay tuned. So, hey, everybody. Today, my amazing guest is Nick Bautista. And the why I have him on my podcast is because I was super inspired by this dude. I met him at the Route 66 ultra run, his 140-mile run, which was November 7th and 8th. And I just had the best opportunity to meet you and be able to run with you, obviously at the beginning. So we'll get into this. So, Nick, welcome to Running Strong Mind Body Connection podcast. Welcome to my podcast, Nick.
Thank you for having me, Karen. And it was a pleasure and an honor meeting you a few weeks ago as well. So
Yeah,
thanks for having
yeah.
me on.
So, your email had attached to it like a 2.5 pages of all your certifications. But even with that, I sort of snuck in and looked at your ultra sign up, and you haven't ran a whole but then you did 140 miles and you killed it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give an intro to everybody of who you are.
Nick Bautista, like Karen said, I am a ultra runner, private health and fitness coach, private running coach. Um, and I've been doing that for the past 14 or 15 years. I've been running ultras since 2000, 2010, 2011. Uh, but yeah, like you said, if you go on to Ultra sign up, there's not a ton of races listed. I've been pretty selective in the races that I choose. I know there's a lot of people out there, friends, people in the ultra running circle that will just continuously race all the time and just rack up points for other races, or they just like earning buckles. uh, but yeah, I've been very selective. Um, I'm not a multitasker by any means, so I can't think about you know 5 races over the course of a year. I think about one race and I obsess about it, train for it, um, and that's pretty much my method. There's one race on there, and one race that you and I talked about early on when we were starting the Route 66 Ultra, was the 500 miler, and Ultra sign up has this thing where if there are less than 10 participants registered, they don't load it onto their site, so you don't get those metrics and you don't get that recognition. So there was only 5 of us that officially ran the 500 miler, and only 2 of us that finished. So I wish it were on there. I've been meaning to reach out to them to see if they would make an exception and add it to their website, add it to my race list. But
I
yeah.
didn't realize Ultra Sign Up did that and had that particular. I do remember talking
Yeah.
about that, and I'm like, man, this dude is just amazing. 500 miles. So tell
Yeah.
everybody how that went for you.
Well, it took me it took me 2 tries to get it done.
Oh,
the
okay.
yeah, the first time I ran it was 2013. And the race is held in the Green Mountains in Vermont on a 10-mile loop up and down this mountain, and you're running through technical trails, mountains, rocks, mud. The weather's horrible. It's Vermont.
Right.
So it's just constantly raining, tons of mud, lots of roots and rocks. Uh, I didn't know what I was doing. I had run a few hundred milers prior to that, and I was relatively new to ultra running. So I said, "What the hell? I'll just go for it." And like I said, I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't have any crew or any pacers for the first week. And I thought, hey, maybe I could maybe I could get this done without sleeping and get it done in one shot. And I completely went out of my mind. I went psychotic, and I made it to 460 miles before I had some crew and pacers show up when they found out I was losing my mind. Um, and they tried to get me to the finish, but too many injuries added up, and they ended up pulling me off the course. But yeah, 460 miles, and I said, okay, well, I'll try it again next year with a better plan. And I finished. I finished the 500 miler in 9 days. You have 10 days to do it. So yeah, 9 days, no
How
issues.
much how much sleep did you get?
So how much sleep did I get? I got a few hours sleep each night. So they had you start late in the afternoon. So they had you start at 4 p.m. So you're running through the night. What I did was try to change my change my internal clock a little bit, and change the race a little bit. So I ran straight through, I think 2 days straight through, and went to sleep for the first time, I think around 11 o'clock, midnight. couple of days later. And then I had this system of running 50 to 60 miles every single day. And then I would just drop down, sleep, eat, try and get in a few hours, and then head back out to the mountain and just continue that 10-mile loop over and over again.
There you have that mental toughness of doing that loop over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
not a lot of people like loops. But I was yeah, it was tough. It was
Yeah.
not easy by any means.
Well, even with running, just running ultras, that's just not a physical thing in what I do and teach and whatnot is it's 80% mental.
Oh, absolutely.
It's totally
Absolutely.
80% mental and what we do that. And what a strength you have of going out there the first time with no crew, no pace or nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'm so impressed.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm so impressed. So it was really an honor and to start out. So the Route 66 starts in Seligman and they have a car and Heather's in that old what is it, a T-Bird?
I think it was a Thunderbird. It was a
Yeah,
red
the red
Thunderbird. Yeah.
Thunderbird and driving this and she drives us out for a good mile and then you stayed with me, I think, for a little bit after that. And then, or maybe that's when we separated. I don't know. And you go, well, or I asked you a question. I asked something of why you do this. You said for your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. So the whole reason I started running halters was for physical health. I needed to get my heart stronger. I wasn't in the greatest health. And once I started running more and more and more, I built my body up. I got my strength back. I got my VO2 max back. I built up my endurance quite a bit. And then it turned into I was running for mental health. I realized that running these long distances was giving me a sense of freedom, was giving me a sense of purpose, was giving me the space to think about a lot of things and process a lot of things in my life. And um, it just escalated from there.
So that I don't know if I've ever heard anybody talk about that. What goes on in your head? What have you learned about you? What is the mental transformation that you've experienced?
What have it running these distances gives us a lot of time
Yeah.
to think about ourselves and think about our lives. It allows us to process our past. It allows us to process, uh, decisions that we've made, regrets, mistakes. Uh, it allows us to process the people that we love, friends, family, self worth. Um, you name it, I've thought about it, and I'm sure you have too. It's just, yeah, it gives us the freedom to think about those things without any restraint, while you're pushing your body through this stress, this physical and mental stress. Um, yeah, I think about everything.
Yeah, I guess I want to say maybe I do too. But I do take a lot of moments sometimes, especially through Route 66, because you're on the road, so it's not anything technical. It's more physical and mental. But there's had to been before the tribe. If you turn around and look, you just had this long gradual uphill. And I turned around and looked, and sometimes I walk backwards or sideways just to get a different angle of my body movement.
Yeah,
But then I just take in the awe of the gratitude of being out there and paying attention to the different color. The mountains just changed so many different colors throughout that whole thing. And to me, it was just
Absolutely.
really a beautiful run. It was really a very fascinating run.
I
And
told Marshall after the finish, I said this was the most fun I had ever had in an ultra.
nice.
It was a different landscape that I'm usually running through. So on the Oatman Highway the next morning, as the
Yeah.
sun rose, I mean,
Oh,
I was seeing purples and blues and like little hints of greens, and I'm like, this is unreal. It's
and we're not
unreal.
hallucinating either.
No, I don't think I hallucinated during this race. So yeah,
I don't think I did either. I know last year I was hallucinating and some stuff. I usually hallucinate in the morning after the first
right.
night, or then I don't normally do it at night because I don't know. I've changed. And what a neat place to be on that climb of the of sunrise.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my own self because I'm usually in Oatman and down that climb during the day, which I really like. I wouldn't want to see it at night because it's just a neat area. It's such a
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful
Part of my
area.
plan was to get through Sitgreaves Pass through the morning, and
Nice,
it was so worth it.
nice. Part of his plan. He finished in 33 hours flat.
Yeah, that that wasn't in the original plan. I had my crew with me. I had my two cousins who live in Phoenix, and when I saw this race pop up, and I knew Marshall was running it, him and Heather, and for a long time I stopped racing. I stopped racing about a year after I finished the 500. I went down to Alabama the following year after the 500, and I ran Pinhoti. Um, and I lost the drive to race. We had just spoken about, ultras are offering me this freedom, um, this space to think about things, and I was doing it for physical health, and then it turned into mental health. But with the racing, um, you know, you're getting, well, at least I was getting a handful of sponsors and uh, people in the ultra running community in that circle, even family and friends. There's like this expectation that comes. What are you running next? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And then sponsors reaching out saying, "Hey, it would be great if you ran this," and then I kind of, I followed along. I was doing what I was told and doing what I was expected, and and then racing just became an obligation. Um, and I felt like I lost my direction. I wasn't running for I wasn't running for myself anymore. I was running for other people's expectations, and I had to put a stop to that. I wasn't having fun anymore. So after Pinhoti, I got rid of all of my sponsors. I stopped racing, and I just sort of ran under the radar. Um, no direction, no plans. I'd be out running 10, 13, 18 miles a day. Not even recording my runs, not even using GPS. And then I sort of needed to get uh, my control back over running. And then I did that for almost 10 years. And then when I saw Marshall's raise the Route 66, I said, what the hell? Let me sign up for it and see if I can still do it. Prior to that race, I think it was, shoot, when was it? So I guess several months, several months before the race, I said, okay, let's see if I can still do this. And I just went out and I ran like 36 miles, felt fine. I'm like, okay, let me sign up for it. so and and that's how it happened. And I built myself a plan, which is something that I've never done actually. I do it for my running clients. I build specific plans for them, but for myself, I just always kind of went out and said to myself, let's see what happens. But this time around, I built myself a plan and everything seemed to work out.
So, this episode of Running Strong Mind Body Connection podcast is brought to you by Bonnet Natraj, your mental fitness and peak performance coach. She's a powerhouse speaker and a fierce founder of the Mental Fitness Edge. So, let's be real, mental resilience isn't a nice to have, it's your secret weapon. Karen helps hold leaders, high achievers, purpose driven pros ditch burnout and survival mode for calm, clarity, and unshakable confidence. So if you're curious about what's sabotaging you, you can get to my website, thementalfitnessedge.com, and click on a discovery call with me, because strong minds don't just build strong lives, they build unstoppable futures. So Nick, welcome back to
Thank
the
you.
podcast. And so what I was sensing from you was mental resilience. What I was sensing, and you were just sharing what your story was. And I love the fact that you honored yourself and your reason for running to be it's kind of personal escape in life
Yeah.
and how we process our life, and not being caught up in the media part of it, of being sponsored. I'm sure the sponsorship was kind of fun, but then you're doing somebody else's plan and it's not your own plan. And then
Oh, for sure.
the other thing I hear too is you're making all these plans for your clients, but you don't make a plan for yourself. Isn't that so typical though?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The auto mechanic puts out beautiful work, but his car is the worst ever. you
It's
know?
always the do as you say, not as I do
Exactly.
mentality. Yeah.
But along with your accolade of accomplishments, he's a NASM and a National Association of Sports Medicine
That's correct.
coach, which I know I was there first when we talked about this earlier, because I found that their recertification and is really expensive. And so I
Yes, it
didn't
can.
follow through, and I went into senior because I was training senior women in the gym, and it was just super fun. But you got into this and you weren't really a runner at that time, were you?
No, not at all. So this is funny. I never ran in my life. I actually hated running. It was just it's not something I ever wanted to do. And then you know, uh, after talking with my primary care physician and talking about some health issues, I figured what's the best way to get my heart strong, and it's cardio. And then that's where it started. It started from running around the block, and feeling winded, and then building myself up to a mile, building myself up to a 5K, 13 miles. I actually ran my first marathon during a 100 miler. I skipped over the marathon and I did a 100 miler first. I have an obsessive personality, so um, uh, it becomes my thing, and that becomes the only thing. So yeah, I was never a runner before. Never a runner before 2010.
But you're out there
And
coaching all these people to be runners, and you have a plan for them. So that has to have been what NASM set up with you, and the coaching
NASM
stuff.
and Road Runners Club of America. I have my
Okay.
certification through my run coaching certification through them. But at the time, I had already been running ultras, and then when I went to go get certified for this, I'm sitting I'm sitting in this conference room with 25 something runners, and they're all 5K runners, half marathon runners, and you know, um, I forget his name. Randy was the one who led the class, and he starts with this icebreaker. You know, how many miles? If you run more than 20 miles a week, raise your hand. And then like everybody raises their hand. And then he's like, okay, if you run 30, 40, 50 miles. And um, each distance, you see fewer hands up in the air. And then he's like, if you're running, how many people are running 100 miles a week? My hand stayed up, and he's like, and everybody's staring at me. And okay, who's running more than 120 miles a week? Well, I'm the only one with my hands up in the air. 150, 175, 200. Yes, I've run more than 200 miles in a week, and like people are just staring at me like, the hell is wrong with you? Why are you here? And I had to kind of explain, this is what I do. I'm an ultra runner. I had just finished a 500-mile race a few weeks prior to that, and um, the strange thing is, I sort of had to like relearn um, all of this run coaching, because everything that I was doing for ultra running was completely inappropriate for half marathons
Totally.
and
Yep.
marathons. So I had to like work backwards and sort of let go of all of this extreme stuff. Um, and I actually found that challenging. I find it really challenging to coach half marathon runners and marathon runners. But I have clients that are running 50 miles. I have clients that are running 100 miles. Um, and for some reason, that just comes more naturally to me.
Right.
Um,
Right. I did that because I was training people for who I worked with. Everybody saw that I would go swim first, and I'd ride my bike to work, and then I'd run at lunch and ride my bike home. So I was a cyclist before all this running,
oh, wow.
and which that was fun. Um, and they're like, well, can you train me? And so I ended up training 90% of the finance department to run their first half, to run their first marathon, and then a couple girls ventured out and ran their first 50K and 50 miler.
That's incredible.
That
Yeah.
was pretty damn fun. And
Yeah.
then I ended up starting my 100 milers in 2008, which I swore I would never run again. Actually, the first marathon, the first mile, I swore, this hurts, this sucks. I'm never doing this again. Well, then, of course, one thing leads to another, and here we are. I
Yeah.
mean, you went out and just, oh, let's see if I still have it to run 36 miles. Yeah, I could do 140. I was like, and win the race in 33 hours.
Yeah, that was winning that was not in the cards for me. That was not built into my plan. I've never won any race. I think the closest I came was to the 500 miler. I came in second place. Um, but yeah, I never thought to myself, yeah, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna come in first place
Yeah.
overall.
So you don't sound like
And
you
that,
have that strong competitive mindset, that
no, not at all.
strong competitive edge.
Not at all. When we're out there, I don't see anybody as a competitor. Because we're all doing the same things, but we're all different.
Yeah.
We have different bodies. We have different minds, different emotions, and we're all doing it for different reasons.
Right.
So there's no possible way I could say I am competing with so and so, or they're competing with me. We're all out there competing against ourselves, and that's what I did at Route 66. I was competing with myself, um, uh, and then everybody else was, in my mind, doing the same thing. They were doing it for themselves, and I liked I liked that first 15 minutes, that first mile of the race, where we all kind of just walked and shuffled, and we got to know each other briefly. And you're kind of wishing each other, you know, good luck, be safe. And that's what it's about for me. We're
Yeah.
all out there suffering the same. So it's,
Well, in
there's
some
I don't think there's
respect.
any room for competition.
I love it. Jimmy will be on my podcast in another week or so. And he was like 30 hours, then something, the most would be 36 hours. and he came in after me. And so we go through this stuff, and it's how we mentally hold on to it, how we mentally manage it through the event. Because you really don't know when anybody does their first 100 miler, or maybe even their first 50 miler, you don't know what it looks like after mile 18. You don't know what it looks like after mile 50 when you're doing 100 miles. What goes on, everything, the whole body has a different response to the extra miles or the extra distance.
Yeah,
And I love what you're saying because it's a journey. It's a journey
it
in your
is.
own soul. It's a journey in your own physical being of just your ability to be successful and do a 140 miles.
Yeah, I think for people that don't run ultras, for people who haven't done 100 miles or more, I don't I don't think they really understand uh, how much pain is involved. It hurts a lot. It really does. Um, but like I was saying before, we're all different. We all have our own histories. We all have our own lives, and we all figure out our mechanisms in order to deal with that pain and in order to deal with the physical and mental stress of it. Which is like as and I'll repeat myself again, which is why I don't see anybody as a competitor or we're competing against each other.
Right.
Um, yeah,
And I
always.
love, and this race too is small. It's personal, it's quaint, it's connected. Everybody, even though we're so many miles, hours away from each other, when we all came together at the end of it, that was just such the community, which is just really cool. I love that stuff. I love that quaintness, that bonding, the whole everybody doing their own thing and how it all pulled together.
When we were speaking earlier, right when we started, I said I was very selective about the races that I was choosing, and I like the smaller races.
Yeah.
I like, you know, the 500 miler. There was five of us, um, and in this race there was 20 something of us at the start altogether. Um, and I really appreciate those close knit relationships,
Yeah.
and the laid back feel of it. Now I have an unpopular opinion, and this I might shoot myself in the foot for this, but I have no desire to run Western States. I have no desire to run Hard Rock or UTMB. Uh, I can't be in those massive crowds with, you know, cameras flashing in your face and people screaming and cheering. I no, that's like, I don't know. I find that to be just terrible. I don't want that. I like having that quiet time in order to process how my body's feeling, process um, the environment and the landscape that I'm running through, and not be distracted by crowds of people.
Well,
That's just not me.
I will have a yab up for Western States because it's limited to the number of people they let on the trail.
Yeah.
And it's only semi-crowded at the beginning, but other than that, it's really well spread out. And it's a very epic 100 miler in the essence of the canyons and the scenery and all that goes through. And I think Hard Rock too is another selected, those are smaller races. I don't think you would be wanting to do Javelina or
No.
and definitely not UTMB because
No.
I know the first year that we did that, I was like, it was we started 3 hours later. I think we're supposed to start at 9 and the weather put us out to midnight, but they didn't give us 3 more hours of time. And then so it's in the middle of the night starting, and there's all these big men with poles going
Yeah.
down this ski lift, and I'm running into poles and I'm just crowded by people. Got into the first aid station. I couldn't even see the table.
Yeah.
There was so many people, I couldn't even see the table. So I didn't get anything to eat. I mean, everybody was like giants to me, and I couldn't fit in there. And I'm not that big. I'm not that small, but I'm not that big.
You and I
And
are the
so
same. We have
I
we have a height problem.
it was ridiculous. And I'll never do Boston for that
Ooh,
same,
yeah,
there's no way. I did do it the one time, and then I thought I'm doing this one and done because I'll never go back. It was just stupid insane. And
yeah,
so I agree with you in the essence of the small races. And um I was almost fearing that next year is going to be bigger, but I wouldn't mind it bigger for them as race directors. And we've known Marshall for a lot of years and
yeah.
hung out with him. I remember hearing about this race because we have a house in Flagstaff. And then um I think the second year they had it, Andy, Andy Andy, some friend of ours ran it. And I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
But then I did it. This particular year is my second year of doing it. So it's just super, super exciting. So the other thing that you in your email and that you listed on your accredited credentials and whatnot is the mindfulness, the mental part of this. What do you do with your clients in the mental resilience of running? What
Well, sort of like how I was talking about not being competitive in races because everybody's different. Well, I take that into I take that into account with my clients as well in terms of mental coaching, mental endurance. Everybody's different.
yeah.
Everybody, what works for client A is not going to work for client B, and what works for me may not work for anybody. So it's really about it's learning, it's getting to know my clients, it's learning about their past and their history. What drives them, um, why are they doing this, uh, what bad shit has happened in their life,
Hmm.
what good stuff has happened. So it's taking in the entire history um, of that client and sort of building, let's just call it a plan, building a plan for this client and using both their strengths and weaknesses in order to get through those tough spots during training and during the race. So it's going to be different for everybody. Um, you know, one client could say, you know what, I want to come in at, at this time. I want to finish this race at this specific time. Or another client will want to finish in a specific placing. Or another client just wants to finish. Another client wants to experience something else other than those types of things. They just want to be there for the scenery and run for the fun of it. So I take into account everything that they want, um, and that's just the starting point, and everything we build off of that. So there's weekly check-ins with them, and you know what? Life happens. It can throw your schedule out of whack. Um, there could be a death in the family. There could be something that comes up and sort of sidetracks their training, and then that becomes another roadblock. And then we readjust that and then add that into the equation of how they're going to get through this training and how they're going to get through this race.
Gotcha. Yeah. I do the same thing, and we dive into it more on understanding our inner fears and our inner critic and how we sabotage ourselves out there and how we can turn that around and embrace the moments and embrace because a lot of it, just like you said earlier, is the mental fortitude of what we bring to our events, what we bring to our races. And I think in my first 100 was when we do, I even you do a marathon, we have these ebbs and flows of emotions that go throughout that whole event. And marathons are always about that wall at 18 miles. And it's like, that's the worst part. But we've already mentally set ourselves up for that because everybody talks about that. So what if we didn't
Yeah,
mentally set ourselves up for that? And we
right.
just had our own journey. And it's actually, you go through mile 18, it's like, oh, that was pretty darn fun. So it's there's such a mental game we play based upon other people's stories or based upon our own experiences that go on that impact how we show up in life, in running and whatnot. And
Absolutely.
like I said, with my first 100, I would at 84, it's like, screw this. I want my bike. I don't want to run anymore.
There's two things that I really stress with my clients and myself, and those two things are be present, be
Yep.
in the present moment,
Yep.
and another thing that people have difficulty with is acceptance. So when I talk about being present, um, let's say let's say we're in a 100 miler, you know, thinking about the finish line or thinking about, hey, I know I usually get nauseated at mile 60, or wow, my pace could have been better back at, mile 25, mile 27. Well, now your brain is going forwards, it's going backwards, and you're not thinking about what's happening right now.
Right.
Um, and I believe it's really important to stay in the present moment, not only for your run plan, but just to enjoy the race.
Right.
Um, so I think it's really important to stay present.
Yep.
And I work with clients in figuring out certain ways, whether it's a phrase, or if it's a breath or anything, whatever works for
Right.
them, to bring them back to that moment,
Right.
to sort of filter out all of that other stuff.
Right.
And then the other part is acceptance. Um, you know, we could be thinking about, damn, my hamstring really hurts, or I'm completely nauseated, or I know I get nauseated at this specific mile. I know I have trouble. I know I'm going to have trouble on this part of the course, and or I know I'm just going to hurt after mile 36. And we obsess about these things, and we think about them and we're anticipating them. Well, I think what I do for myself is, yeah, these things are going to happen. So there's nothing I can do about it. It's just I have to accept these things as they are. They're going to happen. So I might as well not worry about it.
Yeah.
I know that uh, it sounds like I'm talking about it in a simple manner, like I just flip it like a switch. It's not simple.
Right.
It takes practice, and
Yep.
it's taken me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I figured out what works for me.
Yeah. And to simplify that, kind of what we've been talking about prior to that, is first having the awareness of where our thoughts are going, the awareness of being in the present moment. And the scenarios when you're doing the distances, because for 100 miles, doing that distance is like, am I going to make it? Is my pace good enough? So we're already judging ourselves. We're already taking into account the fact that, and I did that. I have a story, and I have the experience of the Western States finishing with 9 seconds. And, and
That's
catching
wild.
myself, it is wild. But that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast, is because it's the people that are the normal people out there that doing these events who nobody would know those stories. There's stories that go on out there. And
Hmm.
that one was all the snow at the first part and all the heat at the second part. And I remember being from going down to the climb for Devil's Thumb. This is going through the deep canyon part of it, and looking at my watch. And this is a lot what runners do. It's like, I have to keep this pace and start calculating the time I'm going to get there. But I can't do that. And it's like, forget that. Forget the watch.
Yeah.
And you're in that area. It's a single track. It's a beautiful trail, and you're way up high, and you hear the river way down there. And I shifted, and that's the present moment. That's being in that moment. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have finished on time.
Yeah. You know what? Runners, a lot of runners get obsessed about the metrics and the pace
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all the tech stuff. Um, yeah, and you know what? It's great to have a foundation, and it's great to have those tools. to get you started and to figure out that foundation. Uh, but for me personally, I'll only use a GPS in like the first 3 or 4 weeks of my own training, and then I ditch it. Um, I get it. I get a feel for how my body is moving at a certain pace, and then once I get that rhythm, I do away with the watch. Um, I have a manual wind field watch that I wear on my wrist all through training, and I look at that analog hand, and I know I have to eat at this time. I know I have to drink at that time, and that's all I worry about. So ditching all of the tech does bring you back into that present moment.
You're absolutely
Um,
right. You're
and
absolutely right.
another unpopular opinion is if I have a client that's new to ultra running, or even if they're not new to ultra running and they've done a couple of 100 milers, I tell them I don't want them listening to music
Right.
because music it dulls pain. It takes you out of that moment, and pain is information. Pain is letting you know how your body is reacting to the distance, how it's reacting to the terrain, and you need to be aware of that so you can adjust. And when you're listening to music, I know I've had clients say this to me. Yeah, when they're listening to music, they're falling apart. They don't know. They've forgotten to take a salt cap. They've forgotten to eat. Oh, I didn't realize that my Achilles was throbbing. And I'm like, yeah, these are things that could have been mitigated a long time ago, or if you hadn't been listening to music. So I tell my clients, don't listen to music.
Yeah.
I don't listen to music. I've never listened to it.
Right.
And so somebody said, "Well, you must have listened to music in the 500 miler." And I said, "No, not at all."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you psychotic?" I'm like,
Yes.
"No, I have plenty of thoughts to keep me going." So
I agree with that. I remember because when I first started running, it's like, oh, that's the fad. Everybody has to listen to music. But to
yeah.
me, it was confusing
Hmm.
because I couldn't hear my body. I couldn't hear my breathing. I couldn't hear because I was distracted up here. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
take this out. I can't listen to music. Never have I listened to music. And it drives me crazy when people listen to music or they have something plugged in their ear on the trails, out in
Hmm.
nature, and you try to pass them and they get mad because they can't hear
Hmm.
you because they don't
Exactly.
hear
Yeah.
nature. And so I love what you're bringing to the thing, to the table here, to the podcast here, is the fact that, yeah, you're not even listening to your body because
Yeah.
you're disconnecting yourself from the present moment. You're putting yourself, to me, that's like a fantasy world, because you're going out there and it's fun music. It's great listening to music, but that's not the time to do it.
Yeah,
And
if you want to listen to music in your office, in your home, while you're
right.
driving, go right ahead. But when we're doing these crazy distances, it can be dangerous.
True.
If you're completely unaware of something that is happening to your body in a negative way, uh, there sometimes you can't come back from that. You're not paying attention to if you're dehydrated, if you know tripping over that rock did something. Do you have a hairline fracture? You're not checking your pee color, things like that.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you could totally injure yourself.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking of too is even when you're in the woods and you're in the trails and you're out in nature, you're not hearing the animals around you.
Oh, I know. It's especially not to knock anybody, but I'm like, I don't know how anybody could listen to music while out on Route 66. I mean, we don't have ravens around here in New Jersey. So when I got out to Seligman and I'm like, oh my God, there's like so many ravens. This is insane. And they have a completely different sound than crows. So oh man, I was losing it seeing all of these ravens, seeing the hawks, and then early on in the race, we're seeing a bunch of wild horses running and hearing them stampede and hearing the hooves on the ground. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
And if you're bopping to your music, you miss out on all of that stuff.
Right,
So it's
right,
like, what really was your experience out there?
right.
You listen to music
I know, right?
and you disassociated? No, that's not for me.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I've never listened to music. I find it very confusing because I don't know if I'm supposed to dance or if I'm supposed to run.
Good for you.
I'm like, oh, this doesn't work. So you're talking about animals. You were there in the early morning into Oatman.
Yes.
Where were the burros?
Oh, the right at sunrise, I thought there was a burrow coming towards me down the middle of the road. And so maybe I was hallucinating a little bit, but I'm like, what the heck is that? Well, it was a guy just walking down the middle of the road.
Funny.
And I'm like, is he real? And then so when I saw my crew, I'm like, did you see the guy walking down the middle of the road? And they're like, yeah, we saw him. You're not hallucinating.
Okay, good.
But I saw the burrows through Sitgreaves Pass. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and I saw the same family a few times. It was the father, mother, and a little baby,
Oh,
and
fun.
they started up high, and then I kept seeing them, the same trio as I was coming down Sitgreaves Pass. I'm like, oh, it's the same ones. But once I learned that I was really good on time, I shuffled through Oatman, the little town, and my crew, they actually bought some burro food, so I was feeding the burros going through Oatman.
Oh, fun. Fun,
So
fun,
that was
fun.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a coyote that was wandering through because you come down and you come into the town of Oatman, and on the opposite side there's the hill with houses up there. There's a coyote that hangs out up there.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I went through there about the same time as I did last year. So it was interesting because last year it was packed with people, packed with burros. And you had to dodge the burros. They were in your way. They weren't going to move. You had to run around them. I mean, it was all over the place. And then I had more cars around me last year too. Coming out, the burros were all following the cars and looking for food, and they were all over the car. You couldn't even get to the car. It was hilarious. And this year it was just
That's funny.
very, very quiet. There weren't that many tourists. There was the burros were there, but not as aggressive as they were last year. They're not aggressive, more assertive, and then they weren't out there bothering the crew later on. It wasn't as vivacious and wild as it was last year for me. So I'm really stoked I got to see it last year. But a lot of the people that were behind us saw it during the night. I'm glad I didn't see it at night
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah.
going so last year going up that Sitgreaves Pass, I was doing a lot of hallucinating because you had that first long, long climb, then you get to the
Yeah.
store, and then my pacer bought me a Coke. That's the first time I've ever had Coke on a run. I was like, I needed to wake up. And then you see the rock formations in the distance. Didn't you see something like this carved into that? So I took a
Yeah.
picture of that last year because I wanted to prove I wasn't hallucinating.
Well, going through in the morning, as the sun is changing the shadows and
Oh,
what I'm like, is
fun.
that is that a face in the rock? I'm like, no, no, it's just the shadows.
No,
But
it
yeah,
was interesting stuff carved into it, and I don't know, but it was just to me, it's really a beautiful area. It's a really, really a neat area.
that was one of my favorite parts, Sitcrease Pass.
Yeah,
As tough as some of the climbs and switchbacks were, I was like, this is fun. This is
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a blast there.
yeah. I was getting going into Kingman was horrible. Then getting out of Kingman was
Yes.
kind of neat, and then it was from the Wallapai tribe. So I don't know if I shared with you. I used to work for the Wallapai tribe. I used to work for the
No.
city of Kingman. And so that was really kind of cool to going through that. The Wallapai tribe has changed a whole lot since I was there, and I was there a long time ago.
Hmm.
Um, and the city of Kingman hasn't changed that much, but it was kind of cool to go through that. And this time around, man, going by that airport and all that, that was just awful. That was
Kingman,
horrible.
going through that long stretch to Kingman, and it felt like I was on a treadmill. It was like straight. I didn't feel like I was getting any closer to that intersection that I could see. It was like hours and hours. I'm like, oh my God. But one of part of my plan, one of the things I wanted in my plan was to get through Kingman in the early morning because I didn't want to have to deal with the extra traffic or pedestrians on the sidewalks or people going in and out of businesses. So I definitely wanted to get through that in the early morning hours before sunrise. So luckily, I got through that and then made it to Kingman Time Station and then down right after Kingman Time Station going into Box Canyon. And that's where I fell the first time. I just wasn't paying attention and I went down hard and I cracked my elbow, cut up my arm pretty good. Uh, but yeah, first time.
First time. When was the second time?
Second time was 8.5 miles from the finish. I was moving pretty good and I was getting a little impatient. I'm like, yeah, the finish is right there. I just want to get there. Wasn't paying attention, tripped over a piece of broken asphalt, and my arm just opened up and I landed right on my ribs and then right on my hand. So my hand was cut open. I didn't realize I felt my ribs. I'm like, okay, I hit those, but I didn't realize that they were cracked until I finished. And then that's when the pain really started hitting me.
Yeah, the body is amazing because it will do whatever it takes to get to wherever it needs to go before it's like, okay, now it's my turn to repair me.
It's it goes back to the old mind over matter thing.
Exactly.
Anybody can do this. Um,
So you're right there in the yucky part of Golden, 8 miles out,
yeah,
the Golden
yeah,
Shores, and I got irritated with that because it was traffic, and I every time I went off the road, I would stop because I didn't want to run through all that dirt, and I
yeah,
was just
yeah.
feeling uneasy and unstable. But this year I didn't fall at all. My dedication was to not fall. Last time I fell 3 times. Before twice before I got to the tribe. Maybe all three of them were before I got to the tribe. I don't know.
Right.
But it was irritating and I was not going to fall this time. I dragged my feet. You're on not on trail, so you don't have to pick your feet up, but it was over the asphalt little strips, and one of them my foot got caught in a hole and I hit hard. My elbow was all bloody. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not taking this shirt off. I can just look like this. I always wear white shirts, so it shows everything. And so this time I ran on the white line because there's nothing gonna take me out this year.
Yeah. Well, that's what I vow next year is to not fall.
Are you going to come back next year?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
This race was too much fun. I'm not a huge fan of repeating things that I've already done. So, part of my code was once I finish a race, I'm done with it and then I move on. But Route
This is an
66,
exception.
this is an exception. I
Yeah.
love Marshall. I love Heather.
Yep.
I love this race and I
Yeah.
have to come back. Well, I have the Andy Payne Cup, so I got to bring it back. So,
Oh, there you go. That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Well, Nick, oh my gosh, I love connecting with you. I'm super excited to meet you. I'm super glad that you came on my podcast.
Likewise, it was great meeting you out there. Thank you for inviting me and going down this little trip down memory lane
I know, right?
about Route 66.
And I'm excited to maybe I can run a little bit faster, train a little bit harder, stay with you for maybe 1.5 miles this time instead of just a mile. His words were, I got to stretch out my ankles. I'm like, I've never heard that before.
Well, I went into this race. Well, the joke is some people say to me, how do you run all of these distances? How do you train that hard and not get injured? So I tell them that's my secret. I'm always injured. So I went into this race with severe Achilles tendonitis in my left leg, um, and both calcaneus in my feet were completely shot.
Oh,
So my pain level was up there at the
yeah.
start. But I told my crew, I said, this is my actual pain level. but we're going to zero that out and we're going to call it a zero. So if I tell you my pain level from 1 to 10, anytime from mile zero to the finish, it's probably significant. So, uh, yeah. So at the start, I really wasn't feeling my Achilles and my ankle. I'm like, all right, let's open this up and see what happens. And I felt it, but it didn't explode, so that's good.
Well, congratulations to you. That's just, I love your time. 33 flat.
33
33 0
flat.
0
Yeah.
0 0. That 33 flat. That's how do you do that?
You know what? I told my crew, I said we worked out all the math, and I said I want to finish in 36 hours. And I was just, I was fortunate enough to be moving well,
Yeah,
and they were doing the math again, and they said, "Yeah, you're great on time. Let's just keep pushing." Um, I didn't even know I was in first place until Sharon broke it to me through Sitgreaves Pass.
okay.
Yeah, I told my crew I didn't want to know what place I was in. I just want to know if I'm good on time. So Sharon said to me, she goes, "Oh yeah, you're doing great. You're still in first place." And I'm like, "What?"
Where's
So
everybody?
yeah, so my crew broke it to me, and they're doing the math, and they're saying, Amy is this far behind you, and yeah, let's
Yeah,
win this.
the crew is great because they can keep the app open and keep watching where everybody's at. And I think I did at one point, I said, there's 5 people in front of me. And the two's going, no, blah, 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 have all stopped. They dropped or, whatever. Nobody, I think only one person dropped out of the whole race. But
Yeah,
Jimmy was always on you and Amy and Jimmy. So I think I put myself in, no, because Amy Costa passed me. So I put myself in 4th place, 5th place. But then they break it up between the crew, the journeys, and the
yeah,
relays. So I didn't
yeah. And
realize that.
like I said, I thought for a while I thought Amy was in front of me because I
Yeah,
thought she had passed me when I was changing a shirt. And I'm like, man, she's got to be moving well because I don't see her at all. And when Sharon broke it to me that I was in first, I'm like, oh, holy shit.
right.
Never expected that. So my crew were the brains. And
Yeah,
I'm just like a guided missile.
yeah.
They're saying, okay, you need this exact pace, you're doing this pace, you need this many grams of carbs, this many ounces of water, and they were spot on, and I just did everything I was told. And
Nice.
if I needed to pick up the pace, I picked it up. If I relaxed a little bit and they said you're good, I dialed back the pace a little bit. And yeah, 33 flat. That was the plan after it got broken to me that I was in first. So
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen that, and that doesn't mean it's not out there, but that's the first time I've ever seen flat. Good on you.
yeah. It worked
Thank
out.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Karen.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.